Okay, the time has come for me to go over my third favorite of the Friday the 13th series, Jason Lives, Friday the 13th Part 6. And I know there's some back and forth when it comes to the fans about how to present that title, and I kind of go back and forth myself. It's like, is it Jason Lives Friday the 13th Part 6? Or is it Friday the 13th Part 6 Jason Lives? Or is it just Friday the 13th Jason Lives? That one is a no for me, but I've seen some people just refer to it as that. And then, of course, it's acceptable to just call it Jason Lives. Um, so yeah, as soon as I turn off my heater, I am going to start. Okay, where was I? Um, yeah, this has always been in my top three. My top three of the series has been consistent for over 20 years. 2, 4, 6, but not in that order. The ranking for me is 4, 2, 6, which if you've listened to the first five commentaries of the first five films, you know that already. But in case you're new, yeah, 4, 2, 6. That's the holy trinity of the Friday the 13th films. So if you're going to watch along with me, sync your copy up to 0 hours, 0 minutes, 0 seconds, and start right now. I'm not going to be listening, or not going to be watching this with the sound up very high, because I don't want to have a copyright strike. I like that the other ones opened with just plain black background, white text over it. And like I've said a few times, I like that the credits and everything, they tend to be like that for the first 7 of these. And that stinger at the beginning was quite the jump scare. Yay, the dog did not get run over. I go back and forth as well when it comes to which Tommy is my favorite. Final Chapter, New Beginning, or Jason Lives. Because the three of them, there's an evolution of the character. I can totally see Part 6 Jason coming after or Jason. Sorry, Part 6 Tommy coming right after Part 5 Tommy. But I can also see this Tommy coming directly after Part 4's Tommy. Which is fine, because this, for all intents and purposes, kind of ignores everything about Part 5 without completely erasing it from the series timeline. Up until up until a certain point, the timeline of this series is very smooth. Like, there's no major complications, nothing told out of order. It can either go 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, or it can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Just depends on what camp you're in when it comes to the fifth film. I include it. For me, it's canon, but I don't. I'm not offended if people don't include the fifth one, because the fifth one is pretty messy, and it does have rocky moments, but it's still a blast. And right off the bat, this is way more polished and atmospheric than the fifth film, which had a very kind of sleazy tone and a totally different look to it, which worked for that movie, but I'm very glad that they went a totally different direction with this one, and they made it very blue and green and black and gothic almost, Like that is gorgeous. That shot, that of the stones, of the tombstones and everything, that would not have been in the fifth one. In the fifth film, we got a little wooden, a wooden grave marker with Jason Voorhees on it. I do find it interesting that they gave Jason a proper burial with a stone and everything, considering the fact that he had killed 35 people over the course of a week. I would think that they would have done what they said they did in the fifth one, which is cremate him. Cremate him, throw the ashes in the garbage, be done with it. Like, I would think that a small town like Crystal Lake would have done something like that. But apparently not. They were willing to spend money and time and energy burying him with all the other people in town. That's so cool. Like, the cobwebs and everything. Like, this is there's so much detail there. I'm usually not a fan of like lingering too long on a shot, but this does it in a way that's really cool. It's almost Fulci, like with the worms and everything. He almost reminds me of the zombie that emerges in Zombie from 1979 and bites, I believe the actress's name is Aretta Gay, bites her throat out. Kind of reminds me of that zombie a little bit with the worms and all. Audio from Final Chapter. But yeah, I'm usually not fond of just like lingering for the sake of lingering. But when the effects, like when it looks that fucking good, linger away. That oh shit always cracks me up a little bit. I believe this is the first Friday the 13th that actually got fairly positive reviews from critics. Because I think that unlike other entries in the series, a lot of them, like professional movie critics and bigger names in that department, they understood the humor this time around. Like it clicked for them a bit more than the humor of the first five movies. And of course, I have to mention that like this predated the first Scream by about 10 years and has a lot of the same kind of self-referential humor. God, those maggots are disgusting. And the Blu-ray I'm watching just looks incredible. It is like most of the ones I've done the commentaries for, um, while watching. It's the black metal box set from 2012 or so, and the discs are housed in like a booklet sort of thing. And this box set has a couple pairs of 3D glasses, an iron-on counselor patch, and like a little 20-page super super condensed version of Crystal Lake Memories, which the full-length book is a must-have if you're a fan of these movies. And the shots of him coming out of the grave look great. I kind of wish that he hadn't. I wish we hadn't lost the cobwebs. But of course, like the rain and the gasoline, cobwebs aren't gonna be there. But he just looks so cool with the cobwebs hanging off of him that I wish that had stayed for a little longer. What shitty luck. Ugh, the heart punch. I know that that was. Oh, and he stepped on it. I love that he steps on it. Not even really intentionally, just steps on it just by turning. I know that the heart punch was slightly longer by, I think, 2 seconds, maybe, but it was trimmed a bit by the MPAA, and I'm honestly surprised that as much of that remained intact as it did, because that was pretty graphic. And this little Bond opening, I think maybe this moment with the title and that little slash, I think that may have brought some critics on board. Like, they may have gotten a chuckle out of that and then decided, like, okay, this is fun. Because the first five, despite being super campy at times and not dead serious, they did take themselves pretty seriously. And that's interesting to me that in a film with such a big cast, only I think seven or eight of the people appear in the cast credits at the beginning, compared to part five, where I think it's like they included like 18 people. And the score here is really great. Harry Manfredini can do no wrong, especially as far as this franchise goes. And he he experiments a little more in this one than in the first five. The first five films have pretty consistent score, with certain bits appearing in some films but not others, but it's consistent. This is so different. There's the flair and like there's what we're used to, but like there's new elements to it. And we get more of that in the seventh film as well, which I think mostly reuses a lot of what's in this one when it comes to the music. Sheriff Garrus is one of my favorite characters. I wonder what time of night it's supposed to be. He just came in with fresh Chinese food, or fresh empty boxes, empty containers of Chinese food. I want to buy containers like that because the food did not go flying. The containers went flying, but not the food. I love that to take a nap. Yeah, this is another one where it takes a little while to introduce the final girl. Oh, and him. Ah, I can't see him without thinking of the Belko experiment now and being just so. Ugh. Because in that movie, he is such a horrifying. His character is just awful. But here he's normal. And like all the punchlines work when it comes to the humor in this. Like, even little subtle moments like that we're gonna scare him, and then just cuts to the mask, priceless. And I like that her name is just Lisbeth. Not Elizabeth, but just Lisbeth. See, he wouldn't have killed them if they had done that. If they had just driven back to town in reverse, they would have been fine. And then they could have told somebody that there's someone with a hockey mask in the woods, and the whole thing would have been, it would have been fine. Problem solved. Because they would have known who it is. I like how that's almost a nod from Jason. Like, yeah, I will kill him. Aww. Just fling. Like a toasted marshmallow going flying. And apparently that was a near miss. Like, it went, I forgot where I heard it, but I've heard it from a few places that when he speared the windshield, it kind of went in at a weird angle by accident, and, like, it almost hit her or something. This is hilarious. How much is she even handing him? I can't tell. Are those 20s? The angling of that makes it look like it went in her eye, but I think it. Yeah, those are 20s. I think it went in her mouth. Sounded like it went in her mouth. But the angling of that looked like eye. So that is 3 down, and we're 15 minutes in. So yeah, final girl introduced at just before the 16-minute mark, and this group, I love this group. All 4 of them are just super, super likable. And Court's really hot. Paula's my favorite. And the aftermath of her death is traumatic. in in the sheriff's defense, he does sound pretty knuckenfuts. I would not believe that. I would not believe him. Just barging in, talking about there is a zombie walking around killing people, pretty much. Like, I would not. I'd be like, are you high? Into the drunk tank you go. It's funny that it's sort of come full circle in a way. Tommy has kind of become the new Crazy Ralph, just as in Halloween 2018, Laurie has become, the new Loomis. Damn it, Martin. I love Martin, but once again, it's almost like a comedy of errors kind of thing. If he hadn't done this, they'd be fine. If Darren and Elizabeth hadn't tried to scare Jason out of the road, they'd be fine. If the sheriff believed Tommy, they'd be fine. Just strutting along. I like how much this feels like the camp from the first film when it comes to the layout and the fact that there's cabins. It's also the third and final time that the franchise actually focuses on camp counselors. It's kind of funny to me that in a franchise that's kind of famous for the whole like, oh, camp counselors in the woods getting killed and blah blah blah. Only 1/4 of the entire series revolves around camp counselors. And even then, with this film, the counselors themselves make up 5 of the 18 kills altogether. I love the build up to this punchline. And how for the first time there's actually kids at the camp. The camp has actually opened. It's not just getting prepped, and it's not just a counselor training camp. No, this is fully functioning now. Yeah, that line too from Sissy. Like the humor in this is just it's constant and it works. And for some reason when I was a kid and I first saw this, I thought that I don't know why cuz they really don't look that much alike. I thought that the woman on the bus that said here they are and they're all yours. I thought that that was the one that Court hooked up with later on. No idea why. It's not the same person. Oh no, another toxic gay couple. After the one in part 5. Like this is totally a couple tiff that they're having right now. See that line, you've become this whole other person while we're out here. That's totally that yeah. Damn, so she took out 3 of them. She looks so proud of herself. I want one of those headbands so bad. Yeah, I think that would be a really good Halloween costume. Bert with an arm missing, with that headband. That's a nice shiny machete. 4 down. But yeah, the first time I saw this, I think I was about 8, maybe 9 years old, and my parents and I would buy VHS tapes at Suncoast at a mall in Sandusky, Ohio. And I remember when it was time to buy this one on VHS because by this point I was no longer renting. Like we weren't renting, we were starting to buy them because they were starting to become a bit more affordable by then. It was like 2001 ish. Whereas in the 80s and even into the 90s, VHS they were a bit more expensive. But this one was rather cheap from Suncoast. But the issue was, we got to the mall, I got it, and I had to sit in a hair salon in the mall afterward while my mom got a perm. And I remember, even now, almost 25 years later, just sitting there looking at the VHS slip over and over again, like reading the back of it over and over again, and looking at the like super, super gorgeous cover of it and the back of it with that one image of, of Tommy in the boat and all that. And just like, I need to watch this. I need to watch this. Need to get home so I can watch this. But by the time we got home, it was time to eat, and then it was time for me to go to bed. Well, I woke up and I watched as much of this as possible, and then I had to go to school, and then I had to finish it when I got home. Very, very similar to part 5. And that triple decapitation is aces. And already we are 24 minutes in and the body count has jumped to 7. So it seems at this point like, oh my god, how many people is he gonna kill in this thing? Because he just killed 7 people over the course of like 16 minutes or so. But no, it does slow down a bit when it comes to the kills. Not when it comes to the story or action or anything. Okay, this Jason's kind of hot. And that cut is great too. That he's gonna kill me. Eternal Peace Cemetery. So yeah, 25 minutes in and 8 kills. The one's off screen. Hit the noise in the cherries. When I first saw this, I thought that Roy was gonna like, because there's one shot, almost from Tommy's point of view in the truck, of the road, and you see the forest beside it. It almost, for a second, I thought like, oh, is Roy gonna come running out and accidentally get hit by the truck? That would have totally sent the movie in a completely different direction than it actually goes in. And there's something that we're not really at this point used to getting in one of these. Like chase scenes that don't involve Jason. Love this gun. Ya bang. Aw, he's almost finished with Kathleen. That is my favorite. That is my favorite part. Like, my favorite little moment is that cut from "Does he think I'm a farthead?" and the kid, yes! Not eat Brussels sprouts. See, I must have been a strange kid because I never had a problem with Brussels sprouts. I don't know if my family just made sure to prepare them the right way and they were always buttery and peppery, but I've never had a problem with Brussels sprouts. And this part is great with the Indian markers. Yeah, Megan's definitely doing a better job of hyping the kids up. This also handles the kids really, really well. It puts them in just enough danger, it seems. And it's never really a point where it's like, oh, they're going to kill these kids. Like, it never feels like for sure, oh no, kids are going to be on the chopping block. But at the same time, there's some flickers here and there, some moments here and there where it's like, I don't know, maybe. But not to a point where it stops being fun and becomes uncomfortable. And of course, as anyone who's seen this knows, the kids do not die. The kids are fine. This is such a random place to, like. I'm assuming he proposed to her. Um, this is a random place for that. Also, the this moment where he just flings it, like, ew, why are you wasting it and splashing it, presumably on your blanket? I have had moments like this. Where'd the road go? Good catch. That moment would have been cool in 3D, but I'm glad that this isn't in 3D. We had our 3D Friday the 13th and it went very well. Would not need to do that again. This is a nice echo of a similar moment at the very beginning of part 5, where young Tommy in the dream catches Jason killing the two grave robber guys. Ah, poor Stephen and Annette. And the body count just jumped to 11. And we are only 32 minutes in. That's insane. One thing I have always wondered is that there's the book he's reading. The one thing I've always wondered is that the director has always, like, he's mentioned a few times, and maybe I should ask him this myself at some point, that originally this was supposed to have 13 kills, but that they added some. Well, those, it would have made sense if the 5 paintball people had been the scene that was added to boost the body count from 13 to 18, because, 13 plus 5 equals 18. But from what I've gathered, it wasn't those 5. So I'm really not sure which 5 kills it could possibly be. Like, maybe it was Martin, Steven, Annette, but that's only 3, so it's like, who would the other 2 be? because the rest of them, outside of the paintballers, because technically you could remove the paintballers and Martin, Steven, and Annette, you could remove all 8 of those kills, and the story would still flow, it would still be intact, wouldn't miss anything heavy. But I couldn't imagine this. I really can't imagine it with any of those of the 18 deaths missing. But I really would not be able to imagine this without the first 3, because those tie heavily into the story, or the last 7, because those are also just as important. So I'm really curious if anybody listening knows which 5 kills were added. Let me know, because it has pestered me for a quarter of a century. I love how they're good with kids, too, these characters. Like, Paula and Sissy are both just, they're total sweethearts. Like, all of the counselors, really. Like, Court's a good guy, too. He's just kind of dumb. But all the others are just, they're sweet. And they like kids. Even though they joke about, like, them being a nightmare or whatever. None of them are mean. And none of them seem like they don't want to be there. And that's kind of refreshing to me, because there's so many movies where people are taking care of kids, or they're working at a camp around kids, and they treat it like a chore. And it's like, okay, well, if you hate kids so much, why are you working with them? So these people, this is good. See, the angling of that, of where Jason is standing, that stick in the front almost looked like his machete. And it's like, it always takes me a second to realize, oh, that's just a stick. Fuck. And for having no nudity whatsoever, this is the only Friday the 13th without any nudity. I gotta say, that is one of the hottest of the sex scenes in the whole series. But also the funniest. To me, anyway. I love her hair. And the fuzzy dyes. That's interesting. My subtitles on this didn't catch the freakin'. It just says Smokey the Bear. And another subtitle moment that I've always liked, and it's consistently shown up on various releases, because I have like 8 or 9 different copies of this one on VHS, Beta, I think 2 different DVD releases, or maybe just one, and then different box sets. It's no, 2 DVDs, yeah. It consistently says, when Martin throws the bottle and Jason catches it, and he's expecting to hear the shatter but doesn't, the subtitle, "Bottle doesn't fall." Cobra. Yeah, this is always odd to me in these movies. Most of the Friday the 13th movies, it's a summer camp, but often it does not feel like summertime. Like this feels like October or November, and it looks like October or November. which is not a complaint. If anything, that helps this movie. But with part 3, it's a little weird. Because it's like, it looks like fall break rather than spring break or summer. I love this. Bonk. That looked like it hurt. That corner bonk of hers. That ow. Did her shoe go flying off? I like how he called it a big truck. That's one of my favorite lines in the whole movie. This has a great soundtrack too. It's interesting that he took this like kind of more stealthy sort of approach with these two, because we've seen like he can just go up to someone and wipe them out and that's it. So far he hasn't really taken that much time to stalk people. We don't really get that until Sissy and Paula. And because we wait so long, the Sissy and Paula scenes are super, super effective. And the best death scenes of the film. And Nikki's death is, so cool. And the timing of the song and just, great editing. It's very foggy outside, too. And see, the editing of that was really cool. Like, I'm okay with not seeing the knife go in, and it kind of, like, cutting super quick and in a weird way. Oh, there's the infamous cooler that went flying. But yeah, I'm cool with not seeing it graphically, just because the choppiness of that worked really well. And this is another of my favorite shots of the movie. I want to see like a fan poster with that shot of him standing on top of it. Ugh, something that everyone has heard from a parent at some point as a kid or a teenager. I'm the parent and you're the child. Also that sort of thing. God, this is the writing here is perfect. I don't know why, but when I was a kid watching this, the only thing that went over my head was these little exchanges of him on the phone, like in contact with him. Like, I found what's left of those counselors. I didn't notice the beetle in the background, which this is the third and I believe last time we see a beetle in one of these after parts 2 and 3. I didn't see the beetle in the background. So I thought he was referring to the paintballers as the counselors. And I was like, huh, that's not right. That doesn't make sense. I thought it was an error. I also thought that was a bullet hole in the back window for the longest time. And I was like, why is there a bullet hole in his truck? What else has he been doing? I have done this before at my desk with almost that same result. And I can't even blame a phone call for it. I'm just clumsy. All things that Jason totally represents. Yeah, now I see the beetle. That cop's also really cute. And I like that that one cop has that like super furry coat. Okay, so this means that Roy got close. Like he may have found Darren and Lisbeth and died right here. Yes. Yes. For the first time since I think the first film, they make it explicitly clear that it takes place on Friday the 13th. I wonder if that's an actual magazine. I think it is. Seems like the guy equivalent of Playboy, almost. See, how are they not cold? Because Court and Nikki, they were freezing their asses off outside. These guys seem pretty much okay. They've got like an open window and everything. Or maybe there is no window? I don't know. The layout, like, this is odd. Like, where's the glass? Is it a sliding window? Little things like that I pick up on and I'm like, huh? And their doors open too. But this is still a really comfy looking cabin. The slippers. Ah. Ah. And her eyes rolling upward as the twist happened. Oh, the headlights almost look like spiderweb looking. I don't know if that's intentional or not. But yeah, her eyes rolling upward when the head neck twist happened, that just ugh. That stuck in my head when I saw this as a kid. And that jump scare when he grabbed her, that's my favorite scare of the movie, for sure. And at this point we are now 49 minutes in. There's been 14, yeah, 14 deaths. Only 4 to go. And we're only a little bit past the halfway point, and it does not slow down or become boring or anything. Like, this is one of the only times where that's speeding? Question mark. This is one of the only movies I can think of, slasher movies specifically, where over 2/3 of the deaths occur in the first half of the movie, and it does not slow down or feel off because of it. Some films it's really noticeable. A good example would be the original Friday the 13th. All but one of the on screen deaths are in the first 45 minutes or so of the movie. And then for the next 50 minutes, the only fully on screen kill is that of the villain. And it slows down very noticeably in the back half at times. Not boring, but definitely slow. Whereas this one, it just keeps going and going and is always at least fun. Helped big time by the fact that we get stuff like this awesome car chase, which is something else that we, up until now, had never seen in a Friday the 13th. We don't get high speed police chases and stuff in movies like this. We don't get, RVs flipping over and catching on fire. That's a nice little shout out. Cunningham Road. And I actually just saw in a Facebook group a couple days ago a post that was like, if you know so much about Friday the 13th, what shot is this from? And it was just the shot of her crotch. Also, that line, this is gonna be a hairy turn. That's a nice little huh huh. Busted. Oh, that totally looks appropriate. That doesn't quite look like real blood, but that's okay. Paula, I don't think you need to have the phone in the bed with you. You can set it down. But I've also been guilty of that. But I've also slept with a cell phone in the bed. Not one of those big old things that I also still have one of. And then Nancy just holding the machete for some reason, like just the most innocent person in this entire 12 film franchise holding a bloody machete is just the funniest image. She was a second away from noticing right then that the phones were dead. And one thing that this has that a lot of the others didn't really have is the sense of there's a certain sense of urgency here, and they do such a good job of making the secondary characters like Sissy and Paula and the kids so likable that like I watching it like I didn't at a certain point it was kind of like okay I Jason doesn't need to kill these. I would be totally cool even now I would be totally cool with Sissy and Paula surviving because I liked both of them so much. Um, so there's a sense of urgency like during the car chase and everything. It wasn't just funny car chase blah blah blah. It was kind of like I rooted for Tommy and Megan to successfully get to the camp because if they had gotten to the camp at the very least Paula would not have died. So now it's kind of a point and even watching it the first time I was like, "Oh shit, nobody's coming to rescue them. Someone needs to get there and stop Paula from dying." Tommy was with me all that time, which is a lie. That is a total lie. But for good purpose. Okay, Flash, into the cage. See, this is so cute. Yeah, like at the like I don't buy that she would not notice that because that's a big friggin' dude right at the window. I don't buy that she wouldn't have noticed it when she stood up, but it still works and this is still creepy and I really like that in a film that kind of sped through its kills, it slows down to really focus on the stalking of a character. And it's the stalking of one of the most likable characters. I hate that feeling. Like the feeling that she has right now of just the like being at camp because I used to go to church camp when I was a kid, and I would have this sort of feeling sometimes because the cabins I would stay in didn't have bathrooms in them, and sometimes I would get up in the middle of the night and I'd have to walk to the bathroom cabin that was really close by, but the trees I would see the trees and the darkness and it would be like that, and I would always think like, ooh, something's out there, and I would scare myself and run back to my cabin after, just like this. And I've actually been to a couple of the locations used for filming this one. Unfortunately, I've not been to the area that was used as the camp here, but I've been to the police station, the downtown area. I used to live in Gainesville, Georgia, which, as it turns out, is not far away at all from where this was filmed. That's great. That's why I'm glad there was still blood on the machete. It's just that shot. And even now, like this doesn't even really feel like a death scene. It feels almost like the scenes that led up to the big final girl chases in the first three films. It's that sort of scene. But because we're just shy of an hour into it, and Paula's obviously not our final girl, Megan is, it's a death scene, unfortunately. And that false scare and that heebie-jeebie moment that she just had is the realest shit. Like, that's really good acting. That, like, ooh! And this bums me out so bad. I'm glad we don't see what all he does to her, because the aftermath is insanely brutal. Definitely the biggest example of overkill in the entire franchise. And as much as I love it, and seeing the whole cabin painted in blood, as much as I love that, and the bloody popcorn and everything, it's like, man, why couldn't it have happened to a jerk? But because of that, I have sort of a headcanon kind of theory that, well, Paula somewhat resembled Alice from the first film. And who decapitated his mother? Alice. So maybe, in a weird way, Jason saw, Alice in Paula, resemblance-wise. Also, that bug he killed, I don't know what kind of bug that was, but I don't want to encounter one. Ew, why are you calling your boss's daughter babe, bro? I have a choker that has a very similar design as her earrings. Steady hand, even though that is it's top heavy and causing a little bit of wobbliness. Steady hand. Nice payoff of the red dot line from about a half hour ago. And the guy that plays Rick, he I just read over the part 6 section of Crystal Lake Memories, getting ready for this. He mentioned that I've been there, this street. He mentioned that, like, the only thing that was super close to them during filming was a Waffle House, and I just when I read that, I thought, like, okay, that's not so bad. I think I could eat Waffle House for like a month or so. So now I kind of want to look up the menu that Waffle House had in 1986 and see how good it was compared to what we have now at Waffle House. Which I gotta say, powers it be, who are in charge of this, please bring Waffle House to New York. I'm currently living in New York, and I miss Waffle House so much from when I used to live in the South. Oh, and I never noticed those clowns. I never noticed the clown stuff on the floor, and yeah, there's a lot of really cool little details that even now, decades after seeing these movies for the first time, I pick up on, like those. Like the plushes and the clowns and all that. Pretty impressive selection of board games. Oh, God, she looks so scared. And that is nightmare fuel for a kid. I wonder if she still has that, like, stuffed dog or whatever it is. I always wonder that about, like, certain props in movies. Like, do they still like, what all did the people who made these hold on to? That? That's adorable. Um, what all did people hold on to? Like, who kept, like, jackets and stuffed animals? And did a lot of this just end up at, like, thrift stores or thrown away? Do studios have them? Were they auctioned off? Like, a lot of the stuff, a lot of the time in movies made in the 80s and stuff, my mind doesn't go to studio auctions. Because I don't think that was as big a thing back in 86 as it is now. This is freaking horrific. And the music there is perfect for that moment. But yeah, I wonder, like, what happened to all this stuff? Nowadays, the answer is simple. Like, a lot of it is either destroyed, kept in some kind of studio storage, goes home with, like, certain people take certain things home. Some people take things home that work on films and resell them on eBay or whatever. And then there's auctions. But with this, it's like how much of this stuff just ended up in the wild. And maybe there's a lot of people who own pieces of this movie and don't even realize it. That's a great kill. Oh, and it was the attractive cop, too. One of the attractive cops. So that's 16. 16 kills so far. Also worth mentioning, the scene where she was praying and, you know, he was standing by the bed. There was another moment where after he was gone, she, like, looked up at the sky, like, looked up above her, like, and as if talking to God, she said thank you. And it was cut. And I don't know why. I'm not a religious person by any stretch, and I would have been cool with that being kept in. I wouldn't have seen it as blatant religious messaging. I wouldn't have seen it as, like, rubbing anyone's face in Christianity or whatever. And on top of that, it is a character. It is a character's beliefs. I'm not going to be offended by a character's beliefs. Like, so what? She's a little kid thanking God because the monster by her bed is no longer there. That is reasonable to me. And this is funny. Like, that just invites the audience, like, there's a scary man. What scary man? Pops up at the perfect time for the audience to be like, that scary man. Now that is one, that head squash, that is one death that I really wish had been left intact, because the extended version of that is it's a little bit nastier. Like, you see more of a burst up top and a little bit more blood, and it makes a kind of funky, like, kind of noise. I forgot that there's really not that many kids at the camp. But I guess, like, 20, between 20 and 25 kids for 6 counselors, that's not too bad. Assuming that the 6 counselors would be working for the entire summer, and chances are most kids would only be at camp for a week or two, and there'd probably be multiple groups of kids that come, and Crystal Lake is a small area, I think. So I guess 20 to 25 kids makes sense. Ugh. Ugh. And like the brain gunk and the snot, that's nasty. If I were to be a Jason as an October costume, I would definitely pick either this Jason or Part 7 Jason. Though I'd probably go with this one because Part 7 Jason, God, that seems like it would be so hard to do. Because I would not want to be Part 7 Jason unless I can get the jaw exactly right. The shots aren't helping. They're not working. That's a good... He got a good headshot in, at least. I love that it's sticking in the mask. Now, next time I watch Part 7, which may actually be right after this, because I am still wide awake watching this, next time I watch Part 7, I'll have to really pay extra attention to the mask and see if I can see if they included that detail of that bullet being in the mask. I don't think they did, though. Ugh. Ugh. So foul. Tom McLaughlin, if you happen to listen to this, how dare you do Paula so dirty? Yeah, see, this is great. Again, good with kids. These people are acting exactly as they should act toward kids in this situation. Straight up panicking around children will not help. Will not calm the children down. Oh wow. You know, maybe this is said at the... Yeah, I'll have to look it up. I'm not sure which camp it's supposed to be. I know this is either supposed to be the location of part 1 or part 2, but it really could be either. I'm wondering if it's part 2 actually. But I think part 1, like the original film, being the location here, that would make more sense. Another line that gets a good payoff in a couple minutes. The dead meat line. You know, thinking about it, I used to... Oh, why would he do that? That's just dirty. Why'd he put Sissy's head in the cop car? Glad they had the detail. Like, some films miss that with severed heads. The detail of there being blood pooled on the seat where the head was sitting, because a lot of movies, like, it's surprising just how many have severed heads, freshly severed heads somewhere, without any blood around them or under them. And it's like that no, there would still be blood coming from the, you know, yeah. There would be blood coming from that. This is a great little fight Boom. And the rock beating. I do kind of wish it had gone on longer, though. Like, the fight between these two. And honestly, by this point in the movie, I also would have been fine with Sheriff Garrus surviving. Like, if everything in this movie had been kept the same, but if they somehow found a way to let Sissy, Paula, and Garrus survive, I would love it just as much. But yeah, the Garrus versus Jason fight, if you can call it that, was really good. I just wanted more of it. And I've talked to a lot of people about this, and I've seen countless interactions and commentary and things about this. And for some reason, a lot of people seem to think it's kind of ridiculous that he had the chains and the giant rock and all of that. I don't find anything about that ridiculous. It's a lake. There's large rocks by lakes. You can find big old mini boulder things like that around a lot of lakes. Chains, very, very easy to acquire. I don't see anything far-fetched. Really, the only far-fetched thing about Tommy's whole plan and what he does is I don't believe for a second that he would have found the exact information to properly put Jason to rest over the course of, I'm assuming, like 6 hours or whatever. And of course, as we all know, like, that isn't the way to kill Jason, though I think Jason would have just stayed down there if not for Tina, and he would have eventually just been nothing, and this would have been the end of Jason. Him reading so much and figuring that out in the time that he did, that's the only far-fetched thing. So, to clear it up, if you're complaining about the boulder and the chain, no. There's nothing wrong with that. And I also love all the different things that Tommy just called him, the maggot head and pussy, and some people also have a problem with that, and it's like, why wouldn't someone call Jason names? Somebody would call him names. Tommy would taunt him. It makes sense. It's not like he called Jason a pussy or a maggot head, and Jason was like, "Oh, offended or sad." No, he just kept coming. It's fine. The music here is really good too. Also, there being a ring of fire around the boat, I also believe that. I also buy that. It's not exactly a fast-moving current where the gasoline would like go somewhere else. No, like he poured it that way. Like yeah, it's fine. This is intense. And when I was a kid watching this, I was like, finally! It's the part that's on the back of the VHS slip. Which I love how the VHS is the box for that is so cool. Like there's a slight bit of like a wraparound effect with it. And it's blue. It's like this really cute baby blue sort of shade. So different from all of the other ones, which were either black or white. In came this blue one. Part 7 and Part 8 got some cool VHS releases as well that were like yellow and orange and different colors. But before those re-releases in like 2002, this was this was the only really colorful one that I can think of. Oh, I love that so much. Fucking love that. The like old Camp Crystal Lake sign and so good. And this piece of music pops up again in part 7, um, mainly during Sandra's death, when Jason pulls her in the water and she's flailing around in the water after Russell dies. This is a nice, oh no, like this false death of Tommy. If Tommy had died in this scene, I would have wanted this to be the final film, because it would have been fitting. You know, the main hero of, at this point, 3 movies, half of the franchise, and the main villain dying at the same time, fitting. End it here. That's fine. I believe this was filmed in a large pool. Or at least parts of it were, if I'm remembering right. Wonderful oh shit moment. And part 7 kind of changes this a little bit, because the water he's in right now is not that deep. It's really not that deep. It is so shallow that, like, you can pretty much stand at the, a couple feet off of the bottom. He is, like, it's, like, less than 7 or 8 feet deep, I think. But in the 7th film, it kind of makes it seem like he's quite a bit further down than that. So for me, this is what truly counts. And oh god, the spasming and the shaking, I love that. This is, for me, this is as cool. Like, this is as good of a dispatching of Jason as the famous machete to the head slide down that happens in the 4th film. Definitely my 2 favorite dispatchings of Jason, 4 and 6. Okay, now I don't know if it was just that shot, but like that seemed like there were more kids. It's like why does the number of kids keep growing? But I don't think it's a continuity issue. Masters of the Universe. Yeah, at some point I definitely want to go to the actual campground area. Such a good ending. And right as the flame dies. And the kids cheering that, like, little yay. In most other movies, that would have been cringeworthy, but in this, it's pulled off well. Like, it's appropriate, because there really is a big yay moment. Because I did not want Tommy to die. So him not dying, that yay. Yay indeed. And I love that final shot. Like, even though this movie technically could work as being the last movie, and I'm glad that it's not. It that 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 last shot, even if this had been the last film, like that shot of the eye, it would have been a good note. It would have been a good place to end. But obviously, not the end. The franchise at this point is only halfway over, and hopefully someday we finally get a 13th film, because it is not at all appropriate that in a series titled Friday the 13th, we have never gotten our 13th entry. And I would want Tom McLaughlin, I think, to direct the 13th film. Or at least write it. Like, because, like, this has all of the ingredients. I mean, there's actually not a lot of drinking or smoking weed or nudity in this, and those are key ingredients in slasher movies, a lot of them anyway. We've kind of gotten away from that in recent years. But it fits with Friday the 13th, but there's not a whole lot of that here, but there is a whole lot of everything else that makes this series special, and it, from start to finish, everything works, I think. Like, I don't actively dislike anything in this. And there's been a couple times where I've actually watched this movie kind of looking for something. Because it's like, how has this always been my number 3 favorite? Number 2 at one point. But yeah, there's nothing wrong with it. And I'm looking right now at the filming locations of the campground, and wow, it is very, very much intact. So hopefully the next time I'm in the state of Georgia, I can go. Because unfortunately, the other locations I've been to, it was late at night when we were in Covington, and we were outside only. Like, the sheriff's department, we were outside. We didn't go in. The main street, and where, the chase scene with the truck happened, and the chase scene with the car, and, like, the cemetery, we were at night. Like, we were there at night. And as of a few years ago, the Karloff's General Merchandise store is still standing, too. So hopefully next time I'm in Georgia, I'll get to go to all of the locations, especially the camp, because going by the pictures I'm looking at right now, the camp is it's the same. Hardly anything at all looks different. Even the kitchen that they were in that one scene looks quite similar to how it did 39 years ago, which is pretty impressive. But yeah, that was my number 3 favorite of the series, and at this point I am fully convinced it will always be in my top 3 or top 2. It might jump ahead of part 2 at some point. So yeah, thank you for watching with me and listening to me ramble. Until next time.